So let me share my screen. Why so terror? Can you see my screen?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay, good. Let's
Seeing in
see.
multiple horizons, ne?
Yeah, so this is the first paper. I think it's like a while ago. I think it's published around 2008 or something. Yeah, 2008. And I also
Okay.
have a newer one. So this, let me get on the top. So this is a fairly new one. So it's kind of bridging the counterfactual analysis with the possibility, with like in future study, we talk about possible future, right? So this is more a conceptual paper and it's fairly new. So it's this year. And I have one more. I think this one is, you're probably like interested in most this one because like based on what you just told me, because this one, even though it's like it's in higher education rather than health, but this is like more from a practitioner side.
Yeah,
They're
I can
looking
see this
to
one.
like,
Even the title I can see, exploring digital transformation.
yeah.
It can bring some
Mm-hmm.
light. So I'm very interested in this one.
Okay, great. So I guess will probably just start with this one. So basically, like this paper is they kind of doing this research in France, where it's like they're looking to building like they have like a lot of like scenario of like bring a lot of different stakeholders in together and look into like what's the future of higher education. And what they did interesting is, so they kind of elicit conversations on like the implication of digital transformation in public higher education research and for like user-friendly acknowledge multiple vision and futures. So their methodology is they are using scenario approach and this more morphological analysis, which I later found like is quite interesting. And so they have like a very large group of people, like 44 participants, and they discuss like the makeup, like gender ratios. So basically like just make it inclusive. So this is like more the how the process. So they define the system and they do the retrospective analysis and produce scenario and then like they build on that scenarios. Because I'm also trying to write my own paper, so I'm kind of looking at it on two levels. One level is what it obviously because I'm learning about Foresight, what is actually talking about. But then I'm also kind of thinking like how did they write this paper? So that's kind of another way like I've been thinking like how they structure this research paper. Um, so they kind of they're looking to like guest lectures and different ways to like artificial intelligence on human learning. So that's this is basically like just more background. Let's
Okay.
kind of skip to the this is the table I found like quite interesting. So
Where is the table?
can you see it? So this one. So
Oh,
this is a
yeah.
monographical table. So basically what they did is they took each component of possible hypothesis. They're looking to like 2040. And for example, like in the societal, economic, and their internal organization management and the practice. So basically like they built this table and each one theoretically could be like a combination would be how many they have. So around 4 to 6, 7, 8. So it would be like 30 some combination, but then they kind of combine those more interesting one and basically like have like the most meaning. For example, like in the situation like it would be like community-based and neighborhood capitalism plus a strong territorial policy. And so this would be like one scenario, and for the green one would be a different scenarios. So I found this, it's interesting is when I'm doing my scenarios, if I kind of build up to have like different trend or different internal or external driver of change, and I can look at, oh, what would different combination produce different scenarios. So I found this tool quite useful.
Yeah, it's also my first time that I get exposure to this.
Yeah, so the name is morphographical table. Yeah, and
Oh, it's
I can
called
send you the link.
morphographical table. Okay.
Yeah. And
Fine. Let me
so
just do this.
so they kind of, with all those, they can come up with like 4 scenarios. So one is like at the shadow of digital giant. So this is like have, Apple, Amazon, Google, those is very dominant, and higher education is at shadow. The second scenario is like digital tech for the planet. This is more global. And third scenario is territorial. So this is more localized, more tribal, geopolitical, so less globalization. And the fourth is facing digital frugality. So this is like, maybe it's not going to be all that good. So this is more like a collapsed or a constrained scenario. Then they kind of just develop the scenarios. It's an interesting read on the scenario, but I feel like I'm more interested on like how they construct this paper rather than like the detailed scenario. So I kind of just skip on that. We can come back later. So
That's okay.
Well,
I might have some few questions.
Okay. I'm not sure if I can answer them, but yeah, we can try to discuss
it's fine.
it.
Yeah. Just to make things to flow. But now I wanted to find out maybe as you're preparing for your paper, and you've shown me that morphological table. But you remember you are a student of Sohail, and Sohail taught us about the CLA. I don't know if you know the CLA.
Yeah, I know. So
are you having any plans? Because now the CLA will also fit nicely in your paper as well. I mean, I'm not seeing it here. Maybe as you go down, we might see something of the CLA, because the CLA will want you to have the metaphors, stuff like that in your table.
I don't think they use CLA in this paper, but I do familiar with the CLA. Actually, I have the book here. So
all right.
can say the CLA 3.0.
Yeah, so it means in the future, maybe in the next meeting, the CLA should be on our discussion, because now I believe I will be more active, But I love this. I love this because now this also brings me a different dimension. I've never been exposed to a morphological table, so it's something of interest to learn.
Yeah, totally. And if you have like a paper on CLA or like applying CLA in your field you would like to share, that'd be great, but no pressure. It's just a suggestion. So
yeah, well, I forgot to mention I'm also part of a book club. I think it's the JFS community. With Anna and because we do, I don't know if you know Jim Data.
Yeah, I'm in that book club too.
Oh yes, I'm also in that book. So you also use, what do you call this, Doodle? Is it a Doodle or what? I guess they are not using Zoom to for the
Mira.
meetings.
The Discord.
Discord, yes, not Discord. That's why I say I struggle with Discord, by the way.
Yeah, Discord is very different than that's one reason like I kind of debated whether I should use Discord or Zoom, but then I thought, like people kind of have either loved it or like hated it. So yeah, I just stick with the safe option.
Okay. Now we can continue.
Okay. So I think this table is like the main takeaway for me for this paper, and this is a very empirical, basically like very practical paper. So they conduct a workshop. They have this idea they want to figure out, and then based on the workshop and the input, they build the scenario. And this is like the almost like like research in a very like anthropological. So they get the data and then they have like the real world result. So which is very different from like the other two paper I read. So we can move on to, maybe I should do this one first, because this one, to be honest, it's a very interesting read, but I have like quite a bit difficulty. So I guess I'm just gonna have like a brief discussion and then we can move on to Three Horizon, because I think you probably would also interested in that one. So this one is a very conceptual paper. I think they're trying to, the core argument is a lot of time we talk about where it is. So the possible future will kind of get trapped into the probability. So it's almost become synonymous as likely future. But they are making the case. So even if it's statistically unlikely, it still like has value in like doing those scenarios. So what I found interesting, because I don't have enough time for my own paper. Obviously, 2 months I couldn't like run my own like research workshop. That I think in the first paper they take entire year to just run the workshop. They write it somewhere. I remember I took notes. So yeah, so started 18 months, so a year and a half to do this group discussion. So obviously I'm not going to do this type of paper. So my paper would be more like the maybe conceptual, or I'm still exploring. So just a little bit background. For here, so they kind of like, how can we like political rationally accommodate to this remote possibility of future without compromising sound judgment? Because a lot of times, as futurists, when we propose those wildcard unlikely future to more like, more conservative, more like trying to run the business type of people, they are thinking like this is just too crazy. And so this is, I feel like they're trying to build a theoretical justification for that. So let's skip that.
Okay, I see they talk about the futures triangle as well. I saw something of the futures triangle here.
Future
so I'm
triangle.
Not, because I have not seen any figures on this paper. The previous paper we saw.
Yeah, this is like, I don't think it has any figure. It's like I said, this is a, yeah, there's no figure in entire paper.
You see, so this one, it might be difficult to understand and absorb it,
Yes,
so
that's
I share
kind
the
of
same sentiment with you. So this one might not be more relevant compared to the first paper that we just saw. But I can see it's loaded with content. So it's better to go through just to get the content, because I see it's loaded with a lot of content. So they introduced a lot of concepts here.
Yeah, it's a very conceptual. I think the conclusion is kind of a good summary. So they kind of like just think about unthinkable. So they are like building a direction of soundness, coherent and reliable, of what is commonly prognostic. So the counterfactuals, so bring in the counterbalance of the baseline default scenario. So it's the are you familiar with the counterfactual? I should ask.
No, I'm not. This one is failing. Let's say this paper is fully loaded with content, new concepts.
Yeah.
So what I'm gonna ask now is that please share the papers with me as well, so that in my own spare time I can go through them and I can see how I can,
Yeah, okay. Of course, I'm happy to share the paper, and they are open access, so it's all free. So here,
All right.
a little bit, just a quick background. So a counterfactual are condition statements, basically what would happen if. So often used in psychology and even everyday life. So we are treating some possible alternative way of development. You know, like
Mhm,
what would like Hitler get admitted into the art school? So that would be like an example of historical counterfactual. Uh,
mhm,
so they are bringing the counterfactual with a possibility future. So they are trying to say, at least what I understand is they're trying to say is it will help us. So not only to look at what is most likely possible future would be, which would be like a baseline scenario, but the counterfactual kind of we see like this almost like wild card future. So it can help us perceive those remote possibility and not get depressed, because a lot of times, like when you just look at the very, I'm not sure if you, I think it's probably the similar, like in climate, you feel like there are so many constraints.
yes.
So it's almost like it's
Mm,
hard to imagine like a preferable future. It's almost like always like struggling. So I feel like this is what they're trying to do. But yeah, to
yeah.
be honest, I only skimmed this paper. I feel it's pretty dense, and I'm probably not going to spend like too much time because there are just too many paper. I think only even just on JFS they have like 1,200 paper. So
Yeah, but also what I'm also picking up from this is that there's some similarities with this counterfactual and the CLA by
mm,
Mikhail. Yeah, there are some. That's why I say I'm not that of an expert, but I can see if there's some relevance, there's some
mhm,
linkages between the two.
mhm,
So that's why I would want to read it a lot so that I can
mhm.
understand the concept clearly. And then maybe in the next meeting, I should be able to have a better understanding and the linkage between counterfactual as well as the CLA. But I can
Okay.
see, I can hear that there might be some connections between the two.
Mhm. I yeah, now you mentioned it, I think it's one possible way is like, when you look at CLA, you go from litany to like system to worldview, metaphor, myth, and then you kind of change it. If you change the myth, what would like, so it's that would be considered like maybe like a counterfactual. So
Counterfactual, yeah,
a
you see,
different what if. Mhm,
that's why I say there is the connection. That's why I say if I can, because now remember, it's the first time. Today is the
mhm,
first time that I'm hearing this, but I can
mhm.
already
Yeah.
make the connection. That's why I say the
Mhm,
more I read, the more I
mhm,
understand it better.
mhm, mhm. Yeah. Okay. So I think my Zoom time. Okay, we still have 10 minutes, so let's try to run
That's
through the
fine. Yes.
last paper. So
Okay.
the three horizon. I think this is also different from like the previous one. So I feel like this is a very empirical paper, and this is like a conceptual paper, and this one is a methodological paper. They are proposing a new method, basically like the three horizon. Are you familiar with the three horizon?
Yeah. Actually, in my
Yeah, this.
anticipatory action paper, I've actually used the horizons as well, the horizons method. I've used the
Okay,
three
great.
horizons as well. Even
Mhm,
the curve, the S curve. I have the
mhm.
S curve as well on my
Oh,
anticipatory action paper. Yeah, I'll show you. I wrote a nice paper. Sohail, you
that's
should see Sohail's comments on my paper. You know,
that's awesome. That's great.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's it. Now
Mhm,
I'm familiar with the horizons. I'm familiar. You see now these pictures that you're just
mhm.
showing me. I'm familiar with them. You see, I can make connections there and there.
Yes.
Now I'm starting to get excited.
Yeah, maybe you can talk about like, yeah, I think this is like a very fairly well-known paper, and I found I think it's one of the most cited paper in the last 10 years in future study.
Mm,
So that's why I kind of choose this one. I want to kind of read the newer stuff, but also like this more, has been like widely cited paper. So this is one of those papers. So I feel like I'm also like learned the three horizon method in my like trainings. but this is kind of like
Mm-hmm.
going to the source, like how they first conceptualize the method, and I think they kind of discuss it. So this is not the first time, but they're trying to like really bring together, I think, the Andrew Curry and Anthony bring the Horizon framework into future study, because they started with kind of a brief discussion about what three horizon is. Since you're already familiar with
Mm-hmm.
it, I will not go into too much detail. But then they
No,
kind
it's
of
fine. That's what I say. But I'm glad that you've brought it up because now it just brought the light. It's something that I know, so at least I can see. I'm familiar with this one. The
yeah.
one thing that I did not see, or maybe let's
Mm-hmm.
go, is the S curve, the S gradient. I did not see it.
The S-curve, I remember they mentioned it some. So
Yes, because I used it also on my paper as well. No, there it is. There it is. I saw it. I saw something
no,
of the S curve there.
oh yeah, S-curve. The
Yes,
S-curve give any model if it's not adapted external change under well understood as open system theories.
yes. You see,
Mm-hmm.
but it's supposed to appear in a figure. In a figure with a gradient, you will see that it's like a curve on a gradient. But it's okay. That's why I say it was the first meeting. So I am glad that at least you've bought. I'm familiar with some of, especially this one, this paper.
Mm-hmm.
I'm familiar with almost everything that is in here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
So in this case, I don't think they go in a lot of detail in S-curve. So maybe it's like a future development, because as you know, like this is like 2008. So the S-curve
Yeah.
figure, it might be in a different paper, like later on, kind of
Mm.
built on this paper. So basically, like for this paper, I'm looking to like, let's say, obviously I don't have a new method or framework yet, but I'm just thinking if I am gonna try to build a new framework or like a method for future study, how would I go with it? So obviously it's not come out of nowhere. So they acknowledge it. So this is first in the management book in 1999. So a long time ago. But so I was thinking like maybe I can look into like frameworks in different area, different knowledge area outside of future study. But maybe like the
Yes.
framework can be like transferred into this. So that's kind of one idea like in my back of my head. So and then they kind of discussed how this model was used originally, but then get adopted into future study. I think then they gave an example of three horizon with energy security. I think it's a good way to, if you are proposing a new model, it's very hard for other people to understand if you only talk about it abstractly. So they gave like a very concrete example with like fossil fuel is currently dominant but on the decline, and sustainable alternative energy is on the rise. And the second horizon is a massive mix of the present. So I feel like if I'm like very new to this framework, or if we are coming out of new framework, this is like very helpful. So like how we write a paper. And
Okay.
then
Now I wanted to find out, did JFS give you guidelines on the structure of your paper, maybe how many words you must write, stuff like that, the template maybe of writing your paper, or you just use?
there is a submission guideline, like
Okay.
how they want it formatted, how many words, what's the citation they want. There's fairly detailed one on the JFS website. Yeah.
Okay, no, it's fine. As long as you've got that as a guideline, then I don't see any challenges that might be bigger than what you can,
Yeah, thank you for the kind
Well,
word.
I would love also to offer myself to assist to see, because now I can only gain experience as well. I will apply again next year. I can only gain experience this year with you, so that next year, when my time comes to write the paper, I already have experience. So
Yeah,
I would appreciate an opportunity to form part of your journey as well. Please, my guy.
Of course, like, do you mean like you want to join the paper discussion group like regularly?
Yes, please, please. That's why I say anything. Let's share information. Let's see how much of an input can I bring into this journey of yours as well. But I would really love to.
I'd happy to do that. I think we are like very close to time, so I think can you send me like your, I think maybe like, have we add connection on LinkedIn?
The what?
Or like, can you send me your email?
Yeah, I'm trying to send you an email on chat now.
Okay.
Okay, I've sent you the email.
Great.
Let's see if I can send you the WhatsApp number. Okay, I've also sent you my WhatsApp number as well.
Okay. And since it's only like a minute left, I'll stop sharing. Yeah, it's good to meet you, and I'm like very happy to like you joined me tonight, and we can like definitely look into to continue doing the paper discussion, or like, you know, finding ways to like, you know, learn about future, learn about foresight. Yeah.
All right. No, it's my pleasure. It's really been a pleasure to meet you, my guy. And let's hope that next time when we meet, we'll have more audience, but we'll be also more productive as well. Please do share any communication you have. And I know that I will see you also in the spaces, in the GFF spaces sometime next week, because we are having the community meeting as well. So let's
the
just
community
build on
meeting.
this. Yes, we are having the GFS community meeting. There's a meeting, I think it's Thursday, if not.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
I
you
think
for reminding. I almost forgot it if you didn't mention it. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Okay.
And enjoy. I don't know what time is it there. It's almost 20 to 11 here. So for me, I'm sleeping now.
Okay. Have a good night. It's good to meet you.
You too. Enjoy. It was really nice to meet you, Nick.
Bye.
Thanks, Wayne. Bye.